everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode of Is It Kino? I am your host, Russell Hance, joined as always by Boston Rob Mariano.
Thank you for the introduction, for the comparison to the great Boston Rob. Well, are you more in the Russell camp or the Boston Rob camp as far as who the better player is?
Better player? I mean, you got to go with the guy who's actually won the game and almost won the game twice. But as far as my favorite Survivor characters, I think we should dive into that fairly soon because Russell Hance is in my top two. I certainly like him a lot more than Rob.
Do you follow his YouTube channel at all? I find his rants very amusing. Especially when he's like, he starts and he's all worked up, and then his audio cuts out from like wind or like something's covering up his phone microphone, and he still just carries on for 18 minutes before it comes back.
There's a few, and I don't know if he deleted these, but he'll post vlogs where he gets really drunk and he's like hanging out by his yacht or like his boat or something, and he's like yelling at the camera about how Survivor's bullshit and the producers need to pay him a shit ton of money if he ever comes back, and he's just wasted. I also liked he was doing food review vlogs with his like 10-year-old daughter in the car, and they would eat fast food, and then she got so embarrassed and all the kids at school were picking on her that she quit. And then he started posting vlogs about how depressed he is that his daughter doesn't want to do YouTube with him. So yeah, Russell Hance's YouTube channel, if you're a fan of him on the show, you guys should definitely be checking that out.
He is like a great Icarus case as far as Survivor contestants go, because he couldn't have flown higher for somebody coming right off of two very popular seasons of Survivor, where I think A&E gave him a show with his brother Sean for a bit, and he was dating...
Oh, the house flipping show?
What was it? It was like Holding Hands or something like that. I don't know. It had some catchy title. And then he was like dating every 15th place finisher who was like a 20-year-old girl from every season that followed his.
Wait, who did Russell date? I don't recall him dating anybody.
He was with Michaela from South Pacific, and I believe he also might have messed around with Stephanie from his third season, Redemption Island. And there's also a couple of other girls who he's met. So he's definitely a player as far as that goes at the expense
That's pretty
of his
good
marriage.
For being... He's like a 5'5" fat man. That's pretty good getting all those hot Survivor women.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it would be fine if he wasn't like married with children at the time he started playing the show, but look, who am I to judge a man in his choices? He's a successful fellow.
Yeah, that reminds me, in his drunk yacht vlog, he was talking about how much of his life has been ruined because of Survivor, and he heavily implied that his marriage fell apart because he was portrayed as the most evil villain on television.
Yeah, I don't think it was that. I think it was him cuddling next to the 25-year-old girls on his season. And
hey, it's cold out there. If I gotta get my face up in Parvati's tits to stay warm, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
Yeah, that's what Dan Spilo should have said a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, there's a big meme on this channel where we say "Rip my nigga Dan" because we think he was wrongfully removed from the show.
Have you heard that the cast from that season was going to run a defense of him at the reunion show, and that is why it was pre-taped, and also why some people bowed out. Apparently,
I would believe it because they didn't catch him doing the supposed touching somebody's leg on the boat. They didn't catch that on camera. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even a player. It sounds like the boat was all bumpy and he like accidentally touched somebody, right. And then they just kicked him out right at the finale. Like, it's complete bullshit.
I've heard from people who have been on the show before who are in the know that literally probably close to nobody from that season agrees with Kelly, the woman who accused him of being inappropriate with her version of events at all. And I've also heard that their removal of him was that it looked like he was going to get a spot in the final three, almost guaranteed, and he probably had a couple of votes that would have gotten him.
Yeah, if you're Tommy, and if I'm Tommy and I'm aligned with this old guy who looks exactly like Harvey Weinstein and he's being accused of touching women, I'm dragging his ass to the final three no matter what. Tommy, it's a miracle that he still won, considering that they took his final three GOAT away from him at the last minute.
Well, I mean, I think the just like the caliber of players that were left after, I mean, even just like in that season in general, to be honest with you, the field of contestants for 39 Island of the Idols was not that impressive. But the only one who I think could have given him a challenge was what's her name, Lauren, who came in 4th place, came out in fire making challenge. Everyone else, probably a 0 vote finalist. The fact that Dean got 2 votes was surprising for me.
Yeah, Dean really, he's kind of the Xander of his season, but I think before we review season 41 that just ended, we should establish our Survivor ground opinions, because at the end of the day, anybody can talk about Survivor, but if they have shitty base opinions, I don't know if I need to hear what they have to say. Like, for example, if somebody said Shambo is the greatest strategic mastermind of all time, I probably would not consider any of their other opinions to be valid. So maybe we need to establish where we're coming from to prove to the audience that we are true Survivor kinographers.
Sure.
So who would you say is your Mount Rushmore of Survivor? The 4 heads you would put up on the mountain. That's the big one that everybody likes to discuss. If I recall, Ricard from this season put himself in the Mount Rushmore, which is just embarrassing.
His ego is really bothering me. The self-congratulatory nature of, oh, well, I thought I would come out here and I thought I'd win, but you know what? I realized I can be the best player ever and still come in 5th place. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, pal.
I was on the shittiest tribe of the season. We lost all of our players, and then I betrayed the only person who trusted me at the final 8. So yeah, I'm the greatest player of all time.
I would say that Ricard doesn't even have a real shot of coming back on the show because I don't think he was interesting enough. He didn't pop enough on screen as a character. But it seems like casting is so wonky these days. Like we were talking about Big Brother All-Stars, the second one, right before we started recording, and I wouldn't have predicted like maybe 75% of those people being in the all-star cast for that show. So
yeah, that was a season of desperation. I don't think there were many good options of people who wanted to come back.
Absolutely. I mean,
especially when you have David. David is an all-star. Go fuck yourself.
That was absurd. Of all like the black contestants you could have pulled from, because clearly they were diversity first when it came to his casting, because he was the first one out in his season. He was out the first day.
He didn't even get voted out. He was just gone.
Yes, you could have brought
Jackson cleaned his clock.
You could have brought back Marvin from Big Brother 5, the mortician. He was bring back 50-year-old Marcellus. He would have been terrific, I'm sure. But not to stray too far from the original question here of my Mount Rushmore for Survivor. Here we go. Best players, right? Not best characters. So,
my Mount Rushmore is just my 4 favorite.
Okay, all right. So it's a pretty loose definition of
yeah, because Russell Hantz is clearly not one of the 4 greatest players of all time, but he still is one of my favorites.
All right, so you lead it then. So we got Russell Hantz there.
Yeah, I got Russell Hantz, and then of course, if we're gonna go for my favorite player and also the greatest player of all time, you got to throw Tony Vlachos up there. I mean, that's no question. He's the king. I'm going to have to, I should have been prepared for this because I only thought of those 2 for my Mount Rushmore. So I'm going to think a little bit if you want to bring in your first 2.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I've got, I also have Tony Vlachos on my Mount Rushmore, and I would have put him there even before he won the second time, even though I was so bummed out when he got voted out the first episode of
Game Changers. Yeah,
yes,
that was brutal.
Total crash and burn. But I don't think he could have won Winners at War had that not happened, because all of a sudden no one's really looking at Tony the same way that they might have if he had come back directly.
He was playing 4D chess the whole time.
Yeah, yes, it was all intentional. So I would put him on there. I would also, if we're not doing strictly strategy here, my favorite contestant in the history of the show is Randy Bailey from Survivor Goodbye, who's just
he's great.
He's this crotchety old man who has no friends, has no family, just weeps about his dead dog, and absolutely despised everybody he was living with on that season, especially Jessica Sugar Kuiper, who was a pinup model. And he is certainly one of the most entertaining contestants. He got robbed on Heroes vs. Villains, getting voted out third, and also James, who's this really muscular gravedigger guy. smashed a hard pillow into his face during some challenge right before he got voted out. Just humiliating. But he's a
Do you think he was more upset about his performance in Heroes vs. Villains, or more upset about at the Survivor auction when Sugar stole his last cookie and he didn't even get one?
Oh, that's iconic. Survivor Gabon deserves much more respect than what it currently gets. It is such an entertaining season and full of many great characters. Unfortunately, Randy will never be back on the show. I don't know if you listen to... I think you might have said on a podcast before, you listen to Rob Has a Podcast, right? The Survivor show. Do you ever listen to Johnny Fairplay, Survivor NSFW?
I don't.
Okay, so he has a show as well, and Randy's gone on there a couple of times. And people are a little looser with what they say on that program about production secrets and all that. And apparently Randy, after he was voted out, they give you like a production credit card to order food and to do whatever you got to do while you're hanging out at Ponderosa. He apparently ran up, excuse me, he ran up a credit card, thousands of dollars, and then disappeared from the Ponderosa building to go take a nap for a day on a park bench. So they just had no clue where he was. And there were these outstanding debts, and they were very upset with him. So he will probably never be back on the show.
Oh, no. Do you follow him on Twitter?
I just followed him on Twitter, but he doesn't tweet much. So I unfollow him around the time Survivor ends, and then I go back and follow him when it pops up again.
I think it's worth staying following, because even if he only posts once in a while, it's always gold. He's just so harsh and brutal to everything and everybody.
Have you ever checked out his Cameo page? I've watched his random Cameo videos he has posted to people, and those are equally amusing to his tweets and just his general interviews he winds up putting out there.
I should watch those. His cameos are probably pure gold.
Yeah. So he's probably second on Survivor Mount Rushmore for me. And if you don't have a third pick yet, I'll start with mine then.
Sure, go for it.
I would probably put Brian Heidik, the winner of Survivor Thailand / what was it, Cinemax softcore porn star, who won that season, which would have been a season to probably get the show canceled nowadays.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you like Season 5?
I feel conflicted on Season 5 a little bit, because at the time, that was the season where... So I started watching Survivor around Season 2, and I would go back and I think I somehow got some videotapes or whatever of the first season, because it was obviously very difficult to get something that was like Survivor didn't go to syndication until maybe like 2010 or something, and it played on the Outdoor Life Network for a period of time. So you had to get clever with how you got those reruns. And I watched that one, I watched Africa, I watched Marquesas, and then Thailand, I fell off. But then I revisited Thailand when it did go into syndication on the Outdoor Life Network, and I found it very interesting of a season, although the people were completely unlikable. There is not a single likable cast member in the entire roster. And Brian Heidik,
Brian is pretty likable. I like Brian.
I think he's very funny, but I wouldn't describe him as conventionally likable.
Well, who is?
It's a fair point.
Who among us is conventionally anything positive?
Tommy from Island of the Idols. There you go. Kindergarten. Teaching with Tommy. What was his catchphrase? He sucks. I hate him. He's the most dull winner. I can't. I hate that season. But yes, Brian, very smooth guy, very clever guy, very slimy guy, and I love that he just managed to squeak out a win by one vote against like the most unlikable cast member imaginable. That's also equally hilarious, Clay. Who's like a somewhat of an older guy, restaurateur from Louisiana, obsessed with his wife's fat ass, just a real salt of the earth fellow, you know. So that's a great season if you want to rewatch that. But there's certainly a number of incidents on there that would have gotten the season probably pulled before they even wrapped filming. There was a Me Too incident before the merge. Clay got chokeslammed by this guy Rob Zabotnik, who's like a skater dude or whatever. And there was also accusations of racism held at the final tribal council. People saying, "Oh, we can't let Ted win because blank," with a heavy insinuation that had something to do with his race. So there's all sorts of little booby traps throughout the season as far as social cues go. But it's an entertaining rewatch nowadays. I'll say that.
Probably better on a binge than when they had to watch it live.
Oh yeah, certainly.
So that's 3 for you, and I've come up with my final 2, and I think I know the theme of my favorite characters, and that would be, and I hate to be sexist, but I also love to be sexist. I think my type is a man who is the strategic mastermind puppet master of the season and is also the funniest person on the season. So to conclude my Mount Rushmore, we have Russell Hantz, Tony Vlachos. I'm going to go Tyson Apostle and, of course, Rob Sesternino.
Oh, wow.
And that might just be because I'm a huge fan of their podcasts, but they've done more for my life than any other Survivor player, so they got to go on there.
So you're more of a Tyson fan than a Coach fan. I think that's one of the all-time great dynamic duos, but I would probably have to, if I'm thinking strategy, Boston Rob's going to be my 4th, but if I'm thinking just in terms of who has entertained me the most throughout the history of the series, Benjamin Coach Wade. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love to see him come back and play a 4th go-around. I think he got robbed over Sophie in South Pacific. That was outrageous. That was ridiculous. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna break a scoop here that I've never revealed on a podcast before.
Oh shit!
I was a finalist for that season for South Pacific.
What?
Yes, I was back. This was about 12 years ago now. I was supposed to potentially be on Survivor South Pacific and also One World, which was the season right after, which was a horrible season.
They replaced you with the midget?
Yes, I think that's right. So I have a feeling my type. I was in contention with like Cochran and Brandon Hansen Colton, who were all like skeevy 20-year-old dudes at the time. So that's probably who did take my place there. But South Pacific, I remember seeing Sophie, and I remember seeing Cochran too in the finals in Los Angeles. And I remember seeing Sophie, and I was like, this disgusting woman has a mustache. There's no way she's getting cast. You could see the darkness on her upper lip. There's no way she's getting cast.
It'll look good on the island after 30 days.
Exactly. And what do I know? She gets cast not once but twice, and she wins the season. So Cochran also, very tiny guy. I noticed him hovering around me when I would wait at like the elevators and stuff, because everybody else was like very muscular, very like ripped or whatever, and I'm not. So I think he just like gravitated towards me because, I mean, I'm not Cochran size, but...
Wait, was he talking to you and shit?
No. You couldn't talk to people, but you're there for like 10 days, so you have like weird physical cues or whatever with people. Like there's a sort of comfort that sets in when you do lunch, breakfast, dinner, pool, getting shots, going to the gym. You're around the same people, and then people are coming and going. And by the end of it, I think there were about 50 people or 60 people that were at the hotel the second day. And then by the end of it, there was about 25 people. So, and that I learned then that they would do multiple rounds of finals, but there was a good chunk of both casts that were still left there. So that was an interesting experience. Cochran also, I was like, I don't know if this guy's going to get cast either. And he
now
also
he's
goes
Jeff's
on
favorite player of all
yes.
time.
I think Jeff said he gives him a ride to the finales whenever he's in the audience, so that's how good a pals he is with him.
Yeah. I think Jeff said he was really sad that Cochran didn't want to come back for Winners at War. But
who do you think he would have bumped out?
I'd get rid of Ben, for one, but I guess that's not the same archetype, but still, I mean, Ben just quit in the final, 4, 5? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, that was... I mean, I'm glad he did, because I didn't want to see Ben win, but...
he wasn't going to win. Who's he going to win against? Not Sarah. He's not going to win against Tony. He's not going to win against Natalie.
Yeah.
Michelle, maybe, if it was a final 2.
I can't believe that Michelle got no votes in that final. And, I mean, it makes sense that Natalie would get 4 votes after spending the entire season with those people, but I don't know. For a winter season, you would think there'd be some sort of... internal code. Okay, we can't let the person who was voted out first have any chance of winning in the end for the integrity of the season. But no, that did not seem to matter at all.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Tyson. Tyson voted for Natalie to win, but then on a podcast, he explained, well, I mean, Natalie's my real life friend. She stayed at my house before, and I've never really hung out with Tony. So he just voted for who he knows in real life, which goes against the game, in my opinion, but it is his vote.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I wouldn't argue against that, even if I do agree that it goes against the principle of the game.
I would rather, if I can give one of my personal friends $2 million, absolutely I'm doing that, because they can spend that money on me.
Yeah, right. And just to go back to Island of the Idols, didn't Kelly and Dean have an outside-the-game relationship? Like, she was friends with his girlfriend or something, and she still didn't vote for him. She voted for Tommy, so... I don't know. I understand the logic, but at the same time, it's less satisfying to see somebody just be gifted second place as opposed to maybe a rightful third for that reason.
I think the jury wanted to give some votes to Michelle, but when they realized there were so many people going for Natalie, they just all had to double down on Tony to make sure Natalie did not win, because that would have been complete horseshit.
Absolutely. I think that would have completely destroyed the season. And the season was otherwise perfect. It's a little too soon to say. I think that's probably a top 10 season. It might be a top 5 season. What do you have as your favorite or your best season of Survivor?
Yeah, I was going to, after the Mount Rushmore, I was going to have us name our 3 most rewatched seasons. So I guess we can do that real quick. And my number 1 most rewatched and favorite is, of course, Heroes versus Villains. I don't know if anybody in good conscience can say they would disagree with that. But is Heroes v Villains in your top 3?
You know what? It is not.
What?
Yeah, no. I like the. I tend to go back to the first run seasons. The All-Star seasons, the returning player seasons.
Old school guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, it depends on what you consider old school these days, but I would say my top 3 are definitely before season 20. For me, my top season, and this will be a dead giveaway since I was, fawning over Randy Bailey for almost 15 minutes. Survivor Gabon is the one I've rewatched most, just because it makes me laugh the most. If there was a comedy season of Survivor, I would say that's certainly one of them. Amazon is probably another one of them. And maybe to a degree, Survivor Vanuatu is a little bit. Those are not my top 3, by the way. I'm just saying in terms of if you had to categorize by genre, those seasons feel like comedies to me.
But you wouldn't put them in your top 3 favorite?
No, I wouldn't. I would say Gabon, and then Pearl Islands, and then Borneo are my top 3.
Oh shit, Borneo. Old school. Like as old school as you can possibly be.
Yeah. I love the documentary feel to it. I love how un-PC everybody is with one another and how they're very plain spoken to each other. They don't really know what they're doing. The characters feel completely fresh, especially compared to all the, carbon copies that have come after the fact, or the 20-year-old guys who want to be like a Greg Buis type, or I'm actually, I'm kind of like the Rudy of the season, even though I'm not 70, I'm 50 years old, and I'm a cop, or whatever, all these types of players who are striving for something that feels like that. You have it all in this season, and it feels very new and interesting, even still. Although, if you're, predisposed to the way that Survivor is now, it can be a bit of a slog. It can be very difficult to get through. That second season as well, maybe more so, because those characters, they're more strategy oriented. You get that more on the show as opposed to just the survival and social dynamics that are found in Borneo, and that can make it even dull for somebody who loves that season and is familiar with the game.
I actually, this year, I rewatched Borneo and Australia, and I was expecting them to be slow and boring because I haven't seen them for probably 5 or 6 years, but I was actually way more engaged than I thought. And I thought, wow, it's no wonder why this was the phenomenon it was, because this is some gripping television. It might not hold up for a Zoomer in 2021, because it might be slow to them, but I thought Borneo and Australia were both really good. The only issue is Australia is 25 episodes long. It was way too long. They should have cut that down to 12.
Yeah, they'd really dragged it out. They knew that they had a big hit on their hands, and they extended the length of the show, which I don't think they've done since. It was 42 days instead of 39, so they could get that extra episode out. That was just a mistake. But it was interesting to see, the group that was pagonging the other group not be so strict about it, which was the case in Borneo. And that can really be a season killer, especially in the later seasons when the game is, much more kinetic. If you think back to like Redemption Island or South Pacific, there's really difficult episodes to get through where they're just picking off the other tribe and there's not a whole lot that can be done about it. At least back then, you have the social relationships being interweaved and people having real moral dilemmas about, well, I like Roger and Elizabeth. I don't want to vote them out before Jerry, who I fucking hate. I can't stand her witch nose and her pointy chin and her overcooked rice. I really want to get rid of Jerry.
I feel so bad for Jerry. Like, she got booed off the stage on the All-Stars reunion.
Yeah.
Everybody acts like she's the most cold-hearted bitch, and I'm watching Australia like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
What, just because her and Colby didn't work out, everybody hates this bitch? I don't get it.
Oh, dude, Colby comes across a lot worse, I think, on the rewatch than Jerry does. Colby just seems like a straight-up asshole, and Jerry was painted as this villain just because she had a little bit of attitude now and again. But, I mean, it's ridiculous. Compared to anything nowadays, I mean, it's totally tame, and she's just, I don't know, she's an interesting woman character on that season, and she got lambasted for it.
She was one competition away from winning Heroes versus Villains, so I feel like Jerry deserves better.
Yeah, that's right. I would like to see her come back too, although at this point, she would probably look like Janet from Island of the Artists. She's dried out.
No, there's no way she's gained that much weight. She had a very strict diet. I think she lives on Survivor cooked rice 24/7, even off the show.
Yeah, maybe so. I think she could, if depends on how they cast any returning player season to come. If they want to do a focus on the newer people, then I don't think any old school players are probably going to fare well, as we saw with Winners at War. I was very disappointed to see Ethan and even Amber, who I thought never should have won the show, and also Boston Rob get clipped pretty early on in that season. Although, Boston Rob hung in there longer than I anticipated, but if you take a look at the placement chart, it looks like he's out fourth, but he lasted like 6 or 7 episodes before Tyson and Natalie came back.
That's why Tony is the GOAT, and Tony is on my Mount Rushmore, and Rob is not, because I think Tony, going into Winners at War, sure, he didn't have a giant a statue of his head on the island for everybody to see, but he managed his threat level way better than those old school players did, and I think that's how he got to the end.
Oh, definitely. So we should probably talk about this new reboot of Survivor, because that was intended for today.
I gotta do my top 3 real quick, and then we'll do that. Yeah,
of course.
You know how some people will marathon all 3 extended Lord of the Rings movies just in one weekend, and that'll be their whole life for that weekend?
Sure.
I do a similar thing with my 2 favorite seasons that are back to back, and that is, of course, Samoa and Heroes versus Villains. I feel like you can't just jump into season 20 without watching Russell Hantz's origin story. It's so important. And Samoa I've watched it like 20 times, and it's so entertaining to me. I love that the tribe at the merge, Russell's down to like fucking 4 people versus 8. Which happened, ironically, the season before, but it was like I like how JT and Russell in back-to-back seasons do the same thing, but one of them is considered like the greatest hero of any season, and the other one's the greatest villain. But they kind of have the same narrative of dismantling a giant tribe at the merge. Mm-hmm. But all the drama with Shambo, and Russell like brainwashes Shambo into joining his side and then cuts her throat as soon as he has the numbers advantage. It's like Shakespearean to me, especially the tragic ending where Russell just gets fucked. I love both of those seasons, even though he loses both. And then for third, this is not going to be all that rare of an opinion, but Kage-yan. I know everybody agrees with that, or at least most people put Heroes versus Villains and Kage-yan in their top 5, but I think there's a good reason for that. I think it's endlessly rewatchable.
Kage-yan is probably for what it's worth, the best modern season of the show, or at least the best modern season without any returning players involved in the mix. And there are so many great characters from that season that you could probably even still dive into now that haven't come back. Like Cliff would have been a good one to come back, but I think he died just this past year. That could have been fun, or Bryce would be another good pick. So yeah, I'm completely on board with you there. I think Kagayan's terrific. Does it get any easier watching Russell lose when he clearly deserves the win when you go back and watch? Because I was introducing my girlfriend to some older seasons of the show, and we started with Samoa, and she hated Russell at first. And then by the end, it was like, of course, Russell has to win. Russell played the best game here. There's no doubt about it. And then was just completely destroyed by the fact that he only got like 2 votes in the end. So it was like, for me, it was just as frustrating as well watching him lose, and then also watching Coach lose South Pacific, because I thought Coach similarly deserved it head and shoulders over Sophie or Albert or anyone else that season.
I used to be in that camp, especially when it first aired. I was pissed back-to-back seasons as I assume, teenager. I think I don't remember how old I was. That was 2010, so I would have been like 15. Yeah, I was pissed both times Russell lost. But as I've gotten older and studied the show a little bit more, I've come to the opinion that every single winner deserves the win, and every single loser deserves to lose, Because at the end of the day, there's only 2 rules for winning Survivor. You gotta make it to the end, and you gotta convince people to vote for you. And Russell just couldn't do that second part. So I would have liked to see him win. I'm glad that he won fan favorite, especially when he wins fan favorite over Rupert. That was phenomenal. And I think for the overall narrative of the show, it might be better that he lost back-to-back.
Yeah, I think it does make those seasons probably more memorable than if he comes away a winner. I think something can be lost if like a certain type of character winds up winning the show. Like in Survivor Nicaragua, for example, where you have Judson, and he's a very fun character, but people don't seem to like that character as the winner. And I think that's a reason why he never came back. Or if you had Philip Shepard win the show, I think that kind of ruins a lot of the energy or mystique around the character that makes it fun to come back to.
I disagree. I think if Philip would have beat Rob, that might have salvaged the season.
Well, we kind of saw what that would look like with Big Brother 19 when Josh beats Paul. That feels very close to that, where it's so beautiful but tragic. Like, I felt so bad for Paul watching him lose. He was clearly pained and like shaking. You could
see him saying not again, not again as she's reading the votes.
And Josh, who was this extremely entertaining character all season, who never could have won this. I remember watching Rob Sesternino's pre-season interviews. He's like, all right, so Josh is clearly not winning the show. He said that like verbatim. And Josh was the most entertaining character by far in the season. And he probably couldn't have beat anybody else under any other circumstance. But in this one in a million moment, he squeaked it out and is the winner of Big Brother 19. I thought it was amazing.
Do you think Christmas would have beaten Josh?
Yes, I think Christmas would have cleaned house against either one of them. And that was the outcome that I was really worried about, because she was pretty boring that season. I mean, a lot of people were boring that season. But I thought, all right, Josh would be the most entertaining winner of this, and the most shocking winner. And Paul certainly deserves it the way that he's played. He's played a Boston Robin Redemption Island style game, which has killed any life to this show at all.
Yeah,
but
I think Derek is responsible for killing Big Brother.
Yeah. Everybody seems to be trying to tailor their gameplay to that kind of sterile style. But also, I think the casting has something to do with it. Obviously, they took like a big change after Big Brother 15 with all like the racist fights, and Aaron, who's a problematic character on that show. And
what? I'll say this. She might be a racist bitch, but Aaron, she can still get it.
Yeah, she's not a bad looking gal. So
better than Amanda.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're into. She's like a classic Southern belle. Amanda, she's more like New Jersey trash. Some people like that. So
speaking of Amanda, have you ever spoken to McCrae?
No, I haven't.
I've talked to him on Twitter a few times, and I also I met in person. I've never met Big Brother people in person until this year. For some reason, Matt Hoffman and Enzo had like a fan meetup at a bar downtown where I live. And then I was basically the only person who showed up. So I just spent 3 hours hanging out with them. And it was one of the highlights of my year.
Oh, man. You're a Brigade fan?
Oh, absolutely. I love Enzo and Matt.
I would have really liked to see Enzo somehow beat Cody in the final, too. I was hoping for that. I knew it was never going to happen. I thought Cody had this in a walk.
Yeah. He had it ever since he won the first HOH on day one. Cody already won the game.
Yeah, it really seemed to be that way. And I mean, do you think that Cody played a better game than Derek?
Yes, I do. An all-star caliber competition is way more impressive than the shit Derek had to go up against. So yeah, I think Cody replaces Derek as one of the top 5 winners.
I would agree with that as well. I think Cody's game on his second go-around was much more impressive than Derek's first. Do you consider Derek you just said that Cody played a better game than Derek. Who do you consider the best Big Brother player?
Dan Giesling.
See, I'm going more old school. I gotta go with Dr. Will. I think Dr. Will's
he's my number 2.
Dan's definitely an impressive player, though. But yeah, I am firmly in the Will Kirby camp. Although what he's up to lately, I feel like it's only a matter of time before he comes back to Big Brother and then completely destroys his legacy. He's selling shirts with his face on them now. He's doing TikToks. I don't know. Something's up with Dr. Will. I think. At
least he's doing better than Boogie.
Oh God! Have you looked into the criminal reports against Boogie?
Of course.
Oh, what a psycho! What a creep! What a weird fucking freak of a man. What was it? The restraining order said he was taking videos holding a gun to his computer screen with Will's daughter's picture on it.
Because Will didn't want to go on The Amazing Race with him?
Insane. Just what a fucking lunatic. I can't believe that. But I think
we have to stop talking about Big Brother, because that's not even close to being Survivor, and definitely not close to being Survivor Season 41. So let's drop the 4, keep the 1. LOWRES, what did you think of Survivor 41?
It was all right. I mean, look, I don't have too strong of an opinion on it. It kind of falls in the same category as a season like Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers for me, where it was like I didn't not enjoy the season. I don't know if there's going to be any sort of lasting value to it or rewatchability necessarily. A lot of my favorite characters went out pretty early. I really enjoyed Brad and Jeannie and JD. Nasir was good too. He was an interesting character. He was something different for the show. And I felt like, I guess maybe Xander should have won, but I understand why Erica won, and I don't have any like strong negative feelings about her winning in a walk. So I don't know. I thought there were some good characters, but on the whole, this is just another season.
I think the season, once we got past a bunch of the messy pre-merge, super advantage focused bullshit, I think it really picked up. But with all the just nonstop advantage bullshit, it left a really sour taste in my mouth for the first half of the season, especially the beware advantage. I think that might be the biggest mistake they've made in at least a decade. And the fact that Xander even survived getting that disadvantage thrust upon him, I can see why people feel like he was the underdog of the season and was robbed. But again, I think the correct person always wins, and Erica got 7 more votes than Xander did. Some people, when we mentioned this in the previous podcast, some people commented saying, "Oh, I bet you're a Xander truther." And I'm thinking, well, I really like Xander, and I want him to come back, but he did not play a game that the jury really respected, so there's not much we can do.
Yeah, I think his game... Look, I don't know if he even had a shot going into the final 3 unless he was up against maybe like Heather and If you took Heather and Tiffany, then maybe he stands a chance, but that requires a lot of, revisionist structure to the boot order. But I think his biggest mistake, and obviously they pointed this out at the final Tribal Council, was trying to hype up Heather as a jury threat and say, oh, well, Eric is not much of a jury threat, and trying to frame it as, oh, well, this is my reasoning for pitting Heather against Deshawn in fire making. I think if he had just done the fire himself and taken out somebody, then he at least maybe has a good shot at second place or tying for second place. Did they ever figure out who voted for Deshawn? I'm assuming it was Danny.
Danny.
His best friend the entire season. But I didn't like that they didn't show. They typically will show you whoever gets votes when they all go up to vote. It's like, all right, well, one vote Erica, one vote Deshawn, and then if Xander gets a vote, all right, and then everyone else's vote is a mystery, then they read them. So we never got a clear-cut answer to that on the show anyway. I think he would have stood a better shot if he played a little bolder toward the end of at least getting the runner-up spot, the clear-cut runner-up spot.
I'm thinking, like, at the merge, who are the two other people he can beat? Like, he's the rich, handsome white man on the diversity season. There's no, unless he's sitting next to Heather, maybe, but I think Heather would beat him because she's a woman. I don't know if a straight white man who's sitting next to minorities and women can possibly win, especially against that jury.
Yeah, this jury seemed to be hell-bent on emphasizing the diversity notion of the season. And I think it was Evie or somebody who said, look at this final three who represents diversity in such a great way. If I was Xander and I heard that, I'm getting no votes tonight.
Might as well just go join the jury.
Yeah. He was such a good sport about losing, too. So it makes me think like a producer was like, listen, it ain't happening tonight, pal. But, you're an interesting enough guy. You're a good-looking enough guy. You're young. You probably got to. We can't cast Joe Anglim anymore because apparently he's a Trump guy on Instagram or something. So look, you're gonna have the spot. Just handle this well. We'll bring you back in a couple years.
Yeah, I think even if they didn't say anything, he just seems like that's his personality. He's mellow and he accepts everything for what it is, and he never once did he play the victim. He got fucked over in this game so terribly by the advantages, or I guess the disadvantages. And I don't think he ever complained. He just put on his happy Xander face, ate some Xander candy, and he figured it all out.
Right, which is, I think, the best attitude to have when navigating the game, because you wind up with a lot of people who feel entitled to either win or get to the final four.
Oh, you mean Shan and Ricard?
Yes, yeah. Their attitudes are just very off-putting as far as that goes. And also, Liana did not at all at any point handle anything not going her way well. The best that occurred within that kind of those perimeters would be maybe not getting Xander's idol and just kind of taking it on the chin. But everything else, blowing up back at camp when the vote didn't go her way, just why?
She's sitting there watching the competition like, oh, I hate Xander. His face is disgusting to me. I hope he fucking falls off. Like, she is so bitter against this white boy, and I don't get it.
On the flip side, I also really appreciated how Deshawn was not trying to hide his disappointment at all after he lost. Everyone seemed like, yeah, the season's over. Finally, we can talk. We can have pizza, champagne. And Deshawn's just like, yeah, I should have fucking won. I hate this right now. How much longer till this is over?
Deshawn's like, I put all the black people on the jury and they didn't vote for me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
George Floyd died for nothing.
It was refreshing because you don't often see that even with the 6 month later reunion shows. The only other time I can recall that is with Russell when he was like crying as the votes were being read in Samoa. His eyes were getting a little watery.
That's true passion. He loves and cares for the game more than anybody, even though I think he had not seen a full season before he played.
No, I think he applied for Pirate Master, and then they kept his audition for Survivor. So
yeah, I think he's friends with Boo, and Boo got him on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forever memorable Boo of Survivor Fiji.
I only remember him for being friends with Russell.
Yeah. Hey, what is your feeling on Survivor Fiji? That's also considered... Thailand was considered the worst season of the show, up to a point. And then I think Fiji took the title. Do you have any thoughts on Fiji, since you seem to be kind of positive on Thailand?
I have not rewatched that one in over a decade, and I sincerely do not remember anything about it.
I remember being really excited for that season because I very vaguely knew one of the cast members on the show, this guy, James Rocky Reed. And he was just one of these like offshoots of Shane Powers or whatever, the crazy guy of the season before they started doing every season would have their own crazy guy. Eventually it was Coach, Philip, Randy, etc. Before Brandon Hance blew up and completely destroyed that character. Yeah. There was a very good run in the early 20s of Survivor where you just have great, insane, clearly mentally unstable characters, and he blew it. He blew it with fans versus favorites. So
all we have now is what? Fucking Debbie? Come on.
I know, seriously. And she's fine. She's not that bad, but she's not this. Look, she's not Coach Wade.
Well,
she's not Phillip Shepard.
I think she's not ever coming back because she's also like an anti-vaxxer Trump Q person online, so I don't think they're bringing Debbie back.
Have you looked into Spencer Bledsoe lately?
Yeah, he changed his name and he's posting on Reddit about how he's anti-vax and stuff, which, you know what? Good for him. I'm glad that he can go on Reddit, of all places, and say, yeah, I'm anti-vax. Downvote me. I don't give a shit. Yeah,
what did he change his name to? Rain Man or something?
I think he just made it whatever his middle name is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's good for him. Maybe he'll come back when social attitudes change in 10 years, and we'll see what he's up to. Who knows?
I would like to see Spencer 3.0, see if he can make up for his previous seasons.
I have a feeling Spencer 3.0 would probably go the same way as Malcolm 3.0 and probably flame out pretty early on, but I'd be intrigued to see any of those guys come back in 5 or 10 years and see how they... Also, I hear that Malcolm is really fat now. I hear he's bloated. That's what I've heard. That's the inside scoop from me.
Instead of the freshman 15, he got the COVID 30.
Yeah, I guess so.
Should that be a future season? Instead of like Brains versus Braun or whatever, we could do Ozzy versus Malcolm versus Xander?
Well, you can't cast Ozzy now either because he's doing porn on OnlyFans. So all these guys...
Who cares? You think that they care?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I guess he did do... He did the Spice Network or something with I Love Money People 2 seasons before he came back. So, yeah, no, I guess that doesn't really matter. But he was marketing himself as Survivor Ozzy on OnlyFans. I can't imagine he's thrilled about that.
To be fair, the Nolan twins from Big Brother are doing lesbian incest porn on OnlyFans now. Yeah,
are you kidding me?
No, I'm fucking not.
I'm gonna have to jot that down and just
Liz and Julia. Yeah, it's phenomenal, and I hope they get invited back on.
Wow, that's you gotta respect people's career choices. That's what I always say.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a sexy, hot twin, you might as well get naked with your sister and just post some pictures. Why not?
Sure. I would love to see that of Adria and Natalie from Big Brother 5, but today, when they're like 50 and freckled and wrinkly. Great. So where would you say this season 41 falls for you overall? Is this more middle tier like mine, or low tier, high tier?
I'm dropping this one in the top half because when it gets good, it's really good. All the advantage stuff pissed me off, but then the way that it played out and the fact that none of the advantages really even worked made up for it, and it was more focused on the characters and the social dynamic. There are a lot of legendary moments in the season that I will never forget, like when Xander says to Liana, "No, but you can have this fake." I mean, I don't know if I'll ever forget that. I could have dementia, schizophrenia when I'm like 90 years old, and I'll still remember Xander making Liana and Shan just collapse. You could see on their faces how humiliated they are. I've never been so entertained until that moment. And I like that. Let's talk about the race war dynamic, because that has been a theme of these reality shows for the last 2 years, ever since George Floyd. In the most recent Big Brother season, all the black players, all 6 of them, said, hey, let's be the final 6. And then they did it. It was a secret alliance. They voted out all the whiteys. They voted out all the Asians, all everybody. Final 6, all black people. And then, of course, the black men fuck over the black women as soon as humanly possible, which is very funny. This season, the same thing happened again. And I was like, oh my fucking God. It's just Big Brother all over again. I gotta watch another race war. At the merge, all the black people team up, and I thought, well, there's no way you can stop them. Who can stop these people? And the fact that Ricard was the one who did it, that was thrilling to me. And watching the cookout, the Survivor version of the cookout, get dismantled was highly satisfying after watching the cookout for 90 days in a row just demolish everything. So for a meta race war reality television reason, I have a lot of high regards for the second half of this season.
Yeah, I was really surprised that it did not go the way of Big Brother 23. Pleasantly surprised that it did not seem to win out on this go-around. And we've seen it win out in different forms in earlier seasons whenever they have tried to make the casting more actively diverse. Like in Survivor Fiji, even though that was not a spoken thing, it was not an element of the show, there was an underlying alliance that Earl had arranged between the other black contestants. And also in Survivor Cook Islands, where you have an alliance of players that are all racial minorities that have aligned. And granted, part of it is also just how it kind of shook out based off of a couple of tribe swaps. But there was also the mutiny where the white players were like, yeah, we're not going to be on the team with the Mexican kid and the two Asians and the black girl. We're going to go over to the white tribe where we started out. So it just happened to go that way, but also there was conditioning for that to occur. And they managed to win out by flipping the Jewish guy from the white side. He turned his back on them and said, no, I'm with these guys now. And then they fucked him over at Final 7. So, it's just going to be a component, I think, whenever you go... now, granted, 41 didn't go straight down the line. We're going to do 5 Hispanic people, 5 Asian people, 5 black people, 5 white people. But if you have a significant amount that does not maybe necessarily reflect... the general demographic of America, then you're going to have that component where it's going to be like, oh, we got to team up and, do something for the culture. But the way that the self-seriousness also of how they handle these issues on these shows with Survivor and with Big Brother, it's like, we have to make history. History for CBS history, CBS reality television programming history.
It's important to them.
Sure.
They're changing the world by winning $1 million on television, I guess. Good job.
Yes, everybody thinks there's a 4-year-old on the couch who looks just like them. And, they're their role model. They gotta pull it off just for that little 4-year-old. But in reality, it's like a 55-year-old fat Midwestern woman who's white and has a family. So that's the actual viewer of Survivor. And I have a suspicion that the ratings will continue to drop if they stick with this style of casting, but also more so the style of editing. I don't think the style of casting is necessarily a problem, but how they choose to reflect these people and reinforce this idea of like, yeah, you got to do it for your people. I don't think that's gonna fare well for Survivor in the long run. I think more than likely, if they continue down this trajectory, and maybe they're warming up for it by getting rid of the subtitles, by going with 41, which how do you feel about that? Them getting rid of the colon, heroes, healers, hustlers, villains, game changers, etc.
I think it's perfect timing because it seems clear that they want the show to be something else. They lowered the number of days from 39 to 26. And I don't think they're going to switch it back after COVID. I think Survivor is now a 26-day game forever. And that's why they keep saying it's 41, but drop the 4, keep the 1. This is basically a reboot. It's the new season 1. And I don't know if they're going to keep doing the numbers forever. They might start throwing in stupid little titles again, but it does feel like kind of a new game. So I'm fine with just doing the numbers now.
I don't mind them ditching the titles, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's too soon to tell. I think if we get up to like, hey, it's Survivor 87. Okay, so Survivor 104.
You think it's going to last that long?
I do.
I think you really do. Who are they going to replace Jeff with?
Oh, God. Probably Evie from this season.
Oh, no.
I think what the future of Survivor is probably going to be is that it's going to be after a certain point when the ratings come down into the probably like 3 million, 2 million viewer area, which is not that far away now. It went from, I think, 6 million to low fives from 40 to the finale of 41. I think at a certain point, it's just going to be a Paramount Plus exclusive show. It's going to be a reason to sign up for that because it's cheap enough to produce. And they'll probably do 3 a year, maybe. However many challenges they do a year for MTV and put out through there, they'll probably do the same. They'll handle it similarly.
I would be, oh man, if they're going to do 3 seasons a year at 26 days each, I would be so down to clown. I would prefer that to 39-day seasons for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I would mind it either. The amount of days doesn't really trip me up. It was more so, my biggest problem with the season, I guess, was just in terms of the structure of it, was those twists, because I never find myself, now maybe I'm showing my age here, I am a man in his 30s, but I never get confused by the twists or the rules of the twists. And I was like, okay, so they all have an idol, but they can't use the idol, but now they also can't vote until everybody finds an idol. I completely was lost by many of those, and I forgot that people had advantages or didn't have advantage. So there was just too much going on. It seemed like they were just throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick and make it as interesting as possible, and I think it kind of was irrelevant to what made the show interesting this season. The only real big moment was Xander's moment where he faked out
that's what
Liana,
made up for all the bullshit. But let me, in case somebody just does not understand how stupid this was, I'm going to spell it out for you. Usually, they just have a normal hidden immunity idol hidden somewhere in the forest. You can go find it. But then Xander finds it. It turns out it's a beware advantage. He gets the idol, but he has, at every time the 3 tribes come together, he has to say a secret code phrase that is written on the parchment. So basically announcing to everybody else who finds this advantage, I'm the one who has the idol. So it's basically common knowledge. All 3 people lose their votes, and they have to expose to everybody, I'm the one who has the idol, because, I mean, there's no way all 3 of these people on 3 different tribes are going to keep that a secret, that they all have this beware advantage. There's no way. So by the merge, everybody knows who has the idols, and it's a miracle that these people even made it to the merge, considering they lost their vote by finding the advantage. And then Liana gets an advantage called Knowledge is Power, where if you know somebody has an advantage, you can just take it from them. You can't have those 2 things in the same season. You can't have the announce your advantage to everybody advantage and the if you happen to know somebody's advantage, you can steal it from them advantage. It's so fucking stupid, and the fact that the miracle of Xander's move actually happened, that's why that's so amazing, because he had like a 1% chance of getting away with it, and it fucking worked. It was brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you there. It's too much. And I don't mind it so much because I think they knew they could get away with it because we were going to be so deprived of Survivor after a year where they could put out, they could have just reran a season, and I think a certain amount of the audience would have been happy. Would have been, oh, Survivor's back, great.
They could have re-edited Winners at War to have like a better edit, and I would have watched that too. I want Winners at War with 2-hour episodes, so we can get a proper balance of Edge of Extinction in the main game.
Do you follow any of the foreign Survivors, like Survivor Australia?
Yes, I'm a very big fan of Survivor Australia, and I was tempted to put King George on my Mount Rushmore, but he's only played the one time, and that's definitely recency bias from me.
I'm not all that well versed on Australian Survivor. I've watched 1 season, and I don't think the season counts really anymore because they retconned the fact that a season took place in 2000 and then in 2004 or 5. Which was, I think, it was called Celebrity Australian Survivor Vanuatu. And the twist of that season was the same twist of the first season of South African Survivor, where when they got down to 3 players, they said, okay, now typically this would be the end of the show, but for the first time ever, now that you're the final 3, we're going to bring back 2 players who've been voted out.
Oh, no.
So
and
they did
won?
That. Well, here's what happened both times, okay? With Australian Celebrity Survivor, Vanuatu, they brought back the 9th place finisher and I think like the 11th place finisher who had been voted out previously. It was only a 14-person cast.
So basically Chris Underwood?
Yeah. So there were 3 players left, and then the odd person out who's getting voted out at 3 goes, well, fuck you 2. I'm going to team up with these 2 guys.
Oh, God.
And then they turned the tables, and then the 2 guys were like, all right, well, now we're the final 3 with this girl. She's going to beat us because we got voted out. You want to just go to the end with each other? Sure. All right, great. Then they're the final 2. And that's how that season ended. That's also how South African Survivor began, is somebody came back who was completely boring, had no consequence on the game. She won 4-3 in the finals, and that's how that series started. So they love these twists.
I think that happened on Canadian Big Brother season 1. Like some guy was brought back at the final 5 and then made it to the final 2.
Yes,
I hate it when they do that.
He lost by accident.
Yeah, because she voted for the wrong person.
Oh, classic. Yes, Gary. Gary, I guess Gary was like trans kind of, or a cross-dresser.
He's Glitter Gary, dude.
Yeah, that's a great nickname to give yourself, is after Gary Glitter. Especially if you're a gay man. Yeah, you want to be known by the pedophile moniker Gary Glitter. Cool.
Wait, what's pedo about that?
Oh, I don't know. Just Rock and Roll Part 2, Joker, Gary Glitter, videotapes or something. I don't know. There's a whole trajectory.
It sounds like you're just listing a bunch of Sigma males.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Gary, Glitter Gary, Gary Glitter, they're all part of it. So,
yeah, that's my least favorite thing about these Edge of Extinction seasons, is that somebody gets to come back at the final 5. I think it should just be pre-merge only. One person gets to come back for the merge and then end the Edge. I don't know why they don't do that. That just seems like the most obvious thing in the world to me.
I agree. I think it would be much better. All the seasons like that, Redemption Island as well. But I did thoroughly enjoy seeing Chris Underwood come back at the last minute and win that season completely. I mean, I can't say it's undeserved because, unlike the Outcast twist or anything like that, he was actually starving on that island for the duration of the season, playing a different game we just never saw.
Yeah.
And I was rooting for Devons, but to see Chris the way that I always preferred or wanted one of these seasons to happen is somebody who has no consequence on the game, just an early boot coming back at the last minute and winning. I've always wanted that. Just if I play the Brant Steele simulators sometimes. I like to see that happen. Yeah, if I get I don't play video games, but I'll do that if I get bored. And I like to see scenarios like that happen. It was like it came to life in real time, that kind of scenario. Obviously, it would have been appalling with Natalie beating Tony, but for Edge of Extinction, where
that's why Natalie lost. Chris Underwood showed her how to do it. She was too much of a pussy to challenge Tony to fire, and that's why she deserved to lose.
Yes, in addition to being voted out first on a winter season. Yeah. I'm still I still find that very amusing that Chris managed to win it out. And also it didn't leave a bitter taste in my mouth because that cast was not that good to begin with. I don't know if there's really that many memorable people in there aside from Devons and Ron Clark.
Yeah, and that's the most poetic thing about it, is that I was rooting for Devons to win, but I can't even be mad that Chris beat him because Devons also came back from the Edge of Extinction. So
right.
The 2 people I want to win were both voted out. So I guess either way, the integrity of the game is ruined. I was going to say integrity because I watched the new South Park last night, and they keep saying that.
Yeah, and especially compared to the other 2 competitors in that Final Four, Julie and Gavin, who are just voids of charisma.
Yeah, very boring.
Extremely boring. I think we wound up getting probably the most interesting outcome from that Final Four.
And I found out the other day that Chris was actually invited to be on Winners at War, but he was on his honeymoon or something like that. But I would have loved to see him actually play against the actual winners. That would have been great.
Yeah, that could have been interesting to kind of see if he could redeem himself, or maybe if he could come back from the Edge of Extinction again.
Yeah, what if he did the same thing and won again?
Oh, God.
At that point, just cancel the show.
Seriously, I probably he would have been more interesting in the cast than like Nick from David, who I don't think is a bad winner at all or a bad character even, but Nick really didn't add much to Winners at War, so you could have easily thrown him in there. Or
he was basically just Tony's woo, and thanks to Nick, Tony was able to pull off all the moves that he did because he had that loyal extra number, so I appreciate him for that.
Yeah. But that's about the extent of it. You could have thrown in Cochran. You could have thrown in. It would have been good to see Hatch in the cast. I heard he got yanked out at the very last minute because of Dan Spilo's
that's
bad
bullshit.
activities. So I think he could have. It would have been interesting to see him play. He probably would have been an early boot, most likely. He's very flabby. He's pushing 70, I think, or 60.
Do you watch his YouTube channel?
I do. I think he's a bit delusional, but he makes some good videos. There's some good production value to. I think he hires a team of guys to come and shoot him at his house or something. I don't know, but I appreciate his takes.
He'll get like a 3-camera setup in his house of him like sitting shirtless talking about how Jeff is a racist for saying that Tony has a beautiful family.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. He was like, if you think about what they did with Zoom and showing Tony's family, this white family is what Jeff Probst wants Survivor to embody. It's like, okay, Rich.
It's like a 50-minute video. What the fuck are you talking about, Rich? Go pay your taxes, you dumb fuck.
God. He was also great on Celebrity Apprentice. I don't know if you watched that at all, but
yes. I'm a big fan of Meatloaf. Big fan of who's the country singer who won when he was like about to die.
Well, he wasn't a country. He was the lead singer of Poison. Bret Michaels had a brain aneurysm. Bret Michaels.
Yeah, and then he won anyway.
Yes, he was not going to win until that brain aneurysm happened.
Because they do the finales live. The thing that pisses me off about that show is when Joan Rivers quit the show and then came back and then won that. I mean, Donald Trump, of all the decisions you've made, that was one of the more questionable ones. I'll give you that.
Yes, because her daughter got fired, right? And she went out into the limousine. She was pissed off. She was furious. And I watched a supercut recently of like all the firings from seasons 1 and 2 of Celebrity Apprentice. Because I was watching Andrew Dice Clay clips, and that's just what came up because he was the first one out in that season. Yeah, she was. That was very entertaining. Almost every season of Celebrity Apprentice is extremely watchable, especially now with the way that reality TV has gotten so sterile by comparison with its characters.
There was an episode where they're in the boardroom, and I don't remember who the celebrities were, but it was 2 black women like giving their case, and Ivanka Trump says, "First of all, could I thank you 2 women for being so articulate?" And I was like, oh my fucking God. They left that in the episode? That's terrible.
Oh boy. I really want to go back to either the All-Star or wherever it was Meatloaf screaming at Gary Busey for not
Gary
doing something
Busey.
right.
He was robbed in 2 seasons.
He truly was. I would love that every he would get called to the boardroom every single time. And Trump knew that Gary Busey was like fire television. So every time like a Jonas brother or Mark McGrath would try to throw him under the bus, Trump would just be like, yeah, but wouldn't you say Gary's kind of a genius? Wouldn't you say Gary Busey is actually kind of a creative genius? And then they would just be like, yeah, I guess, Gary's a unique individual, Mr. Trump.
Why did Trump not have Gary on his cabinet?
That's a good question. I think he could have had a great spot in the seasons after All-Star Apprentice.
Yeah, him and Lil Jon can take care of agriculture, I assume. Meatloaf can take care of food, whatever the food department is.
There's
guess
still
it's also
time.
Agriculture.
Look, if this 2024 campaign doesn't get underway, if there are those lawsuits, I don't know. Maybe we could see a new season of Celebrity Apprentice. We'll see.
Did you watch the Schwarzenegger season?
I did to a point. I watched the first couple of episodes because it was amusing to see him picking on his nephew and I think, what was it, John Lovitz on the show.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and the final episode is what I tuned in for, where I think, God, who won? I think it was Matt Eisman from American Ninja Warrior.
Right.
So it was fine. I mean, I'm not going to revisit it anytime soon. It wasn't as hilarious as any of the Trump seasons, but...
Well, speaking of celebrity reality television, who do you want to see on the new Celebrity Big Brother coming up in February?
Oh, I would love to see the return of Gary Busey, of course, who won Celebrity Big Brother UK. Did you ever see that?
Oh, he did? I know. I don't watch the UK. Doesn't the audience vote for that?
Yes, so here's what happened with that season, is there were about 18 contestants, and Gary Busey, who was about 74 at the time, and not there at all mentally, they do this big show where everybody walks down like a venue into the house, and there's a huge screaming audience, because Big Brother was a big thing for a while over there. And he could not make his way up the stairs by himself. The host had to help him up. And then when he got in the house, this is the first time that he's without like any handlers, and he's around people for the first time. And he's going to be in there for about 3 weeks. So everyone's excited. Gary Busey's in the house, Academy Award nominee Gary Busey, and he can't hear anybody. He's just constantly saying, what, just over and over. And then around like the second or third day, it becomes apparent to everybody that having to deal with Gary Busey is a real problem, because Gary Busey is very old and can't take care of himself. And so he's shitting down his pants. He's leaving like shit stains on the tub. And
oh my God, really?
Yes.
How did he win?
Well, here's what happened. So these people are getting fed up with him. You know, he's leaving messes everywhere. He stinks.
Was this in the live show, or was it just on the feeds?
It was in the so they did not do the live feeds for the celebrity seasons. They wanted to give the celebrities some privacy, but it was in the daily show. So every single day,
not that private.
They cut like a good hour-long best of episode of what happened that day, and then what gradually happened over a week, and then 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks is these people hated Gary Busey, and they were mean to Gary Busey. Like they started talking like. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody talk down to their elderly mother or something before, because they're just fed up with it, they're sick of it, and they shouldn't talk to them that way, but they wind up doing that.
That's me every Mother's Day.
That's exactly how they would talk to Gary Busey. They would just scream in his face. They hated him, and so the audience felt so bad for this poor old man, even though he was obnoxious. And they gave him the win. He was the oldest winner, the first American winner of Celebrity Big Brother, and it was a monumental moment to see him come away the champ.
I'm guessing that was a similar time frame to Cody Nixon winning America's Favorite Player in Big Brother 19. Just whoever gets bullied the most gets the America's vote.
It was probably within like 5 years of that time, I would say. But
okay.
The UK voting ethics are, they typically just vote for the most benign person. They're a lot less interesting with their voting patterns, because I've watched some of the regular UK seasons, and they will vote out the troublemakers relatively quick, and it makes for a very dull show. Well,
for the new American celebrity, I'm trying to think of who is both big and small enough to make it onto the cast. And when you think about some of the gets they got previously, like Tom Green, I mean, that's a golden casting. I want to see Tom Green just come back and just do it again. Why not? If they could do that with Paul, why not with Tom? And Tom was actually in the most recent season. They gave him a little vignette for one of the challenges. Do you remember that?
I think so. If I recall correctly, yeah.
He was like doing street interviews for one of the Big Brother challenges. So I would like to see him come back. I know that Neil Patrick Harris says he wants to be on Big Brother, but he might be too famous. But then again, what is he doing these days? Fucking Matrix 4?
He was just in a trailer to a Nicolas Cage film that's coming out next year. So that's about the level of
Is that the unbearable weight of immense talent or something like that? Or is that a different movie?
I think it might be that one. It's wherever Nick Cage is playing himself. So yeah, I don't think Neil Patrick Harris will ever wind up playing one of these shows, unfortunately.
Yeah.
'Cause I think he could be a fun character. But
I think legitimately with live feeds and cancel culture, most celebrities probably know better than to go on a show like this. Because who wants to be recorded 24 hours a day? You're going to say something that pisses people off no matter what.
So I guess on a similar note to Tom Green, if I didn't pick Gary Busey, I would love to see Bam Margera play.
Oh my God, there's no way they would let him in there.
No, he probably wouldn't pass the drug test. But
no, and he's not going to stay sober for 3 weeks. You kidding me?
No, he would quit the show 3 days. But it would be a very great 3 days.
And then they would pretend like when Scaramucci quit the show, they'll just pretend that he was a twist all along and that he didn't actually quit.
Well, I think they knew he had to part ways with the show because of the Davos thing. But that was ridiculous. They really did pull that out of their ass. Just, he was a fake contestant the whole time.
Do you think they were expecting him to get voted out immediately?
Maybe. I think there was certainly an expectation that he wouldn't be there for long if he did look like he was going to survive the first week. And I think he was nominated the first week, so
yeah,
probably didn't make too much of a difference.
I really can't think of any other D-list celebrities I want to see who haven't already been on all these shows. And I'm guessing when they announce the cast list, it's going to be like TikTok stars I've never heard of and just a bunch of dumb shit.
Yeah, Tyler Oakley will probably be back.
A bunch of like benched football players who have played in like one game.
Yeah. I don't think I think they might get some good names in there. It really depends. The quality is pretty 50-50, it seems. And I didn't mind the first season's cast or the second season's cast for the most part. I like Kato Kalin and Tom Green and Scaramouche in there. So it'll probably be a mixed bag of nobodies and some memorable, forgettable people like David Faustino from Married with Children. Bud Bundy would probably be in there. Or Coolio. Coolio would be another good one. Probably faces like that.
Lil Romeo is going to show up.
Yeah, that's entire. Just take a look at whatever Dancing with the Stars cast list, and then think slightly below that. So
think who was mildly famous in 2004. Let's see if we can get them on.
Exactly.
Well, we've talked about Celebrity Apprentice, Survivor, and 3 different versions of Big Brother. Do we have anything else we should say on this podcast that was supposed to be about Survivor 41?
I know Survivor 41 got the least amount of coverage, I think, of anything. But no, I think it was a pretty well-rounded show in terms of reality television, competition reality television.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are like starting GoFundMes for Xander, saying he was robbed, and we got to make this 20-year-old rich kid even richer. Come on, guys! But if he's not too upset about it, I don't know why his fans would be. Like if he wanted to win, he probably would have played a better game. It seems like he wasn't really appealing to get jury votes. He was really just trying to survive. He left his allies in the dust, did not use his idol on them, even though they probably would have betrayed him eventually anyway. And then at the end, I don't know if he thought this was showmanship or what, but he plays the idol in the final 5 for himself when he was not getting voted out anyway. So I don't know. I think he had a lot of misplays that people don't want to recognize. And if I were him, I would have either used that idol on somebody else to look like I was making a move, or I would have kept it. Because what's better than sitting in the final 3 and saying, yeah, see this idol? I've had this since day 1, motherfuckers. Never used it. I think that's more impressive than wasting it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. If anything, maybe play it on Heather or something. I have no idea. Clearly, playing it on Ricard would have been the worst move, especially after they hyped him up, all Tribal Council, about how great of a player he is. Oh, he's so good. That would have been a mistake. But I think Xander definitely had some big moments where he could have at least served himself better in the final Tribal Council. I don't know if he could have won, but he did have those missed opportunities that he... I don't know. On a second go around, I think
he took Erica to the final 3. Like person who won the game, he dragged to the end. He should have put Deshaun and Erica in fire. That was a huge blunder.
Absolutely. I don't know if he deserved 3rd place, but there's a very clear linear line as to why he
fair, lost. Deshaun basically got the same number of votes as him. It's just that Deshaun had like a very close friend on the jury who did not vote based on anything other than their friendship. So this is like a 3rd place with an asterisk. I think they're both tied for 2nd.
I think that's pretty fair then in that case.
Well, I think that might wrap it up unless you have any last thoughts about the season.
No, I've said, I would say everything that I've said thus far, which is just that it's a middle tier season for me. I don't think it's a bad season. It was a pretty easy watch overall. Good characters. I think they'll be better on the second time around. I'm looking forward to the season premiere 42 when that comes around. That cast seems to be more promising, in my opinion, just based on looks. Anyway,
I'm a little hesitant about season 42 because I saw from the preview that they're bringing back the Beware Advantage, which was the worst part of this season. But thankfully, I don't think they can ever do it again because now everybody's going to know that if people are saying weird shit before a challenge, they probably have the Beware Advantage. So they really could only do it in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to get a carbon copy in terms of format, but I don't know. I'm ready for a fresh cast, and there's really not anything else to watch as far as reality television goes, so I'm keeping myself optimistic.
Well, everybody who is still listening to this podcast, let us know if you will be watching the upcoming Celebrity Big Brother and the upcoming Survivor 42, both of which I think are going to be in the first quarter of the new year, I believe. I think Survivor starts in March or something, right?
Yeah. Either late February or early March, so hey, maybe if this podcast somehow gets more than 1,000 views of people who actually care, maybe, just maybe, I will do episode-by-episode reviews of the next Survivor season. I've always wanted to do that, but I just know that there's not really the audience for it here. But maybe some people will convert, and they'll want to hear, some season or episode recaps. That would be terrific. I mean, I think the approach with that, if you're going to go off the Rob Sesternino model, is you have to get 18 to 25-year-old BPD girls from Twitter to spew nonsense on panels. That seems to be working out for him. I would be down to talk about Survivor anytime also, for the record. So
hell yeah.
That was great.
Well, shit. I guess let us know in the comments if you want some continued Survivor reality TV coverage. And for Is It Kino, I've been Simian Jimmy.
LOWRES WUNDERBRED here. Thank you for having me.
We should probably plug you. I forgot to plug your shit.
Just twitter.com/LOWRESWB, Facebook.com/LOWRESWB, LOWRES WUNDERBRED on YouTube.
And I've got a link to your channel in the description. Everybody go check out his movie podcast. What do you have coming out next?
Well, depending on when this drops, we have an episode on A Karate Christmas Miracle from 2019 starring Eric Roberts, where a kid's father disappears during a mass shooting, and he believes that if he becomes a black belt, his father will reappear.
I think Eric Roberts could probably be convinced to be on Big Brother Celebrity.
Absolutely. He did Celebrity Rehab back in the same year he did The Dark Knight. He did Celebrity Rehab.
Oh, no.
So it's entirely possible.
He'll do anything for money, though. Wasn't he in the Cool Cat movies and shit?
Probably. I tried to get him for the movie that I've been working on, Mass State Lottery, and his agent literally said, yeah, if you just give me $3,000, we'll get you Eric Roberts. And I was like, oh well.
Is that worth it?
I mean, it depends on how you use them, I guess. But I decided to go with another approach with that kind of money. So
but he will legitimately appear in any film for $3,000?
Probably less than that. I've seen some horrible trailers.
That is nuts. I think I would charge more than that. Well,
he's great, a legend.
Yeah. Everybody go check out LOWRES, go check out Survivor, and that's it. See you next time, folks.